Hey guys, welcome to our show. Uh, and we wanted to welcome here John Doskin and the world's strongest man, Phil Pfister. Hi, Phil. How are you doing?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, I see here that so you won the world's strongest man competition, the Met RX in 2006. It says that you competed in China, right? Sanya, China,
Yeah, yeah. It's kind
and
of like
you
their
were the.
Hawaii.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's an
And you were
island,
the
island in
very
China.
first. You were the very first American to win the competition since Bill Kazmaier in 1982, correct?
Right. Yeah, yeah. The
And you were
Cavs.
up against 25 competitors.
Yeah, I think yeah, 25 that year. Some years there's 30, some years there's 40. Usually it's about 25 or 30.
So tell us, Phil, what was it like? What's your backstory?
Hmm. Oh, I don't know.
Where do I start?
Gee, where do I start? Yeah.
Let me
You know,
ask you. Let me
really,
ask you. Did you always know you were going to be the world's strongest man?
you know, growing up, I always felt that I was athletic. I always felt that I was strong, but it wasn't until I was 27 that I was really introduced to strongman and had the opportunity to explore that. So kind of a late start. Um, growing up athletically, I was into things like skateboards. I built my own half pipe in my backyard when I was 14 years old. Um, I was into jet skis and snow skis and snowboards and hacky sack and stuff like that. So I wasn't the typical basketball player, football player kind of guy.
Yeah. Let me ask you a
So
question.
when?
Oh, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, no,
Go
Maggie,
ahead.
go.
So when did you hear about the World's Strongest Man competition, and what did you when did you decide?
I was introduced to it like most folks by watching ESPN in the mid '90s. Some people saw it earlier in the '70s on CBS Sports Channel, um, but it sort of resurfaced in American culture in the mid '90s as filler programming for ESPN, and I saw that stuff and I thought, wow, I know I could do a lot of those things as well as a lot of those guys, and maybe some of the things a lot better than some of those guys. And so that was the mid '90s, and then a few years later, I had the opportunity to actually go to a practice session for a contest. It just kind of came out of the blue, and it
Wow.
went very well. And 5 months after that, I was at World's Strongest Man, and I finished fourth in the world in 1998 at my 5 months into the sport.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I
So
have
it's
a question.
kind of a destiny thing, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Absolutely. I have a question for you. We're sitting here and it's mid-December 2020. The whole world has been, living through and continues to live through COVID. And I think strength is such an interesting thing to talk about right now. And physically, you know, it, I think if you're once you're the strongest man in the world, I think you're always one of the strongest people in the world. And so that's physically. But what does it take mentally and spiritually to get that, and then even to like move that into today's world to kind of have the strength just to kind of get through a day?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is dead on. It really speaks to me. This strongman training is very much a mental exercise as much as a physical exercise, and you do develop the spirituality. At least for me personally, you know. So, how does that translate in the day to day, and how is that helpful? In the era of the pandemic, now that life has changed. First off, I'll say that, man, I was really blessed to be far along the learning curve about appreciating the seriousness of the virus. And it doesn't matter how big and strong you are, or how young you are, how old you are, or how healthy you are. It can take your life or forever change your life.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm very much a man of science. I believe in science. Um, you know, my father was a doctor's doctor. He was really exceptional. He was definitely in the top 1% of medical doctors in terms of skill level and accomplishments and respect that he earned from his colleagues and love and appreciation from his patients. So I grew up in that kind of atmosphere, and my mother's also a medical doctor. So, gee, I think it all comes back to reality. Just the ability to embrace reality and appreciate knowledge, appreciate science, appreciate facts. It's I like to live in the fantasy world a little bit, but the more I embrace reality, the healthier I can be, and all that comes back to self-love. So it's all about self-love and purpose and honesty with yourself and truth. And do I care enough about myself to do strongman in a healthy way? Do I care enough about myself to wear a mask whenever I'm around other people? I want to live to be a really old person someday, and I'm about halfway there. So it's all about self-love and health and just, embracing reality. That doesn't mean that we can't also embrace possibility and, that fantasy sometimes drifts into reality a little bit. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be brief.
No, you're good. You're good. I think
So,
go ahead, Maggie.
so Phil, tell us what's the heaviest weight you've carried or lifted ever?
Gee, well, I'll start with the heaviest thing that I ever moved. It weighed over 500,000 pounds, 600,000 pounds, a riverboat. And maybe you've seen the truck pulls on TV where we might be pulling an 18-wheeler. I mean the competitor. It's one man pulling an 18-wheeler or sometimes two 18-wheelers. Well, I had the opportunity to pull a 300-ton or 600,000 pound riverboat once. That was the heaviest thing I'd ever moved. I've pulled some big jets before that weighed over 200,000 pounds and some stuff in the neighborhood of 180,000 pounds, some big planes. The heaviest things I've ever picked up and carried, I think a 1,325 pound yoke, they call it, where you get under it and you put it on your shoulders or your back and see if you can lift it and move it over a set distance or set course. And that's definitely on the heavier end of the spectrum, at least when I was competing 10 years ago. The bar keeps going up every year. So the idea was to move it, I think, 20 feet. And I think I did it in about 11 seconds. And we do the car walk where you get in a car just like Fred Flintstone on the cartoon, and you stand up with it and your feet stick out the bottom and you carry it down a 60-foot or 80-foot course. And those would regularly weigh about 900 to 1,000 or 1,050 pounds. And I finished that course once in about 10, 11, or 12 seconds. And occasionally we have a farmer's walk where I might pick up 345 or 365 pounds in each hand and carry it down a course and back if you can, or they would measure a distance. The heaviest thing I ever put overhead was, I think, a 411 pound oversized barbell. Those are some of the heaviest things. I lifted a 530 pound round boulder up over a 4-foot bar once at a contest, the Arnold Schwarzenegger contest. So that's kind of a short list of some of the things.
When you're
What's that plane that you pulled with a rope? What was that? Is that a military plane?
Yeah, we pulled the C-130, Hercules C-130. It was about 180,000 pounds when we hosted World's Strongest Man here in Charleston, West Virginia, over about an 80-foot course.
That's so wild. But so I want to talk about when you're about to pull, you're sitting there, and I've seen a bunch of pictures and videos, et cetera, but like, and the breath work and the minds and the men, and like, how are you focusing in that moment? I mean, that's got to be some hyper focus where you are just so locked in. And so just kind of walk us through that process.
Well, it's very different when you're 5 or 10 years down the road as an athlete, but when you're very new in the sport, it's maybe a different kind of mindset, and each athlete has their own different mindset. But so very early on in my first contest, I had this mindset like, you hear these urban legends, the little old lady lifting the car off of her grandson because it fell
Yeah.
off the jacks or something like that. Or, you hear lots of sort of superhuman survival uh, archetypes that we can tap into where we can access adrenaline. So that was my mindset, put myself in that frame of mind to try to draw on these super powers that are buried within us. But it's kind of like a bank account. If you try to write those kind of checks out of your body and out of your psyche too often, then you'll die. You spend your bank account and there's nothing left to spend. So there's a reason why we can't go there. So I hit some walls pretty quick in that. And, when I was trying to go to that place early on, I would scream myself hoarse. So fortunately, I was able to evolve pretty quick. And I told my fellow competitors, I said, and I won my first contest. And I said, just wait until I figure out how to do this stuff without screaming. And so it comes back to practice. It's just like a kid who's told that they've got to tie their shoes for their very first time. That's mind blowing when you're a little kid. You don't know how to tie your shoes. It's this very complex thing.
Yeah.
But through some practice and some encouragement and some guidance, the child learns how to tie their shoes without even looking at their laces or thinking about it. I think a lot of us can just tie our shoes automatically without much thought or even looking at them really. So how do you make that progression from mind blowing to automatic and easy? And so it all comes back to familiarity replacing anxiety, confidence and confidence yielded from practice and repetition replacing anxiety. So faith and just building blocks, just little small steps. So actually, you ask about focus, but when an athlete goes into an event, a well-practiced, well-prepared athlete, at least for me, my mind would be pretty quiet, and it's kind of a fine line to be relaxed and confident, but also hyped up just enough so that maybe you do have some adrenaline flowing and this and that. So that's something that an athlete always has to keep in their mind, to sort of be vigilant against not being too relaxed, So that's always a struggle, I think, for athletes. And when you're getting it just right, you experience the flow state. And when you're not getting it just right, those 1,000-pound cars that you're trying to carry crush you, and you stumble with them and you feel every pound. But when you are getting it right, it's light and effortless, and you zoom down the course, and it's like having an out-of-body experience and kind of watching things happen on autopilot. So,
yeah, love it.
So let me ask you, Phil, because it looks like this was your destiny, right? Like this is your why, it's becoming the world's strongest man, right? And a lot of people have trouble finding what their ultimate purpose is in life, and I feel like it all has to do with energy and who you are as a person, and really following your bliss. And a lot of people are not aligned with, that following the bliss of what their ultimate purpose is. They're not seeing the potential things that they could be out there. Like you said, you came across this, you saw it, let me try it. I don't care what anybody says. I'm just going to try it and see what happens. And wow, I won in, a few competitions, and I think I can do this better. What do you say to those people that have trouble finding their purpose, their why?
The podcast just got really heavy, huh? Speaking of heavy stuff, and
because your energy in alignment to that greater purpose was there for you, and you just took the opportunity. And because of that, I know that your energy was flowing towards that destiny. And a lot of us out here are kind of lost. We somewhat find things that are interesting, but we don't follow it. And I'm asking that because I can see, because of your success, your energy was aligned with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've studied just a little bit about each of you, Maggie. I know you, a little bit. I know your story, and it's really amazing. And John's as well. I got on the interwebs and Googled and all that kind of stuff. And so, and you talk about strongman being my life's purpose, and and things coming into alignment, and how do I, kind of share, chasing your bliss, finding your bliss, doing what your destiny calls you to. And it's something that I struggle with every day personally. You know, um, I can't walk on water. I'm a regular guy. I'm a regular guy. I'm one of the strongest people to ever walk the planet. I truly believe that in some ways. But, ultimately, the world's strongest man is really just a televised strongman contest. And it's a title and this and that. And but maybe I don't take it as seriously as some of the other champions. Um, and that's inevitable. Some of the guys, and some of them are best friends. They lived, ate, slept, and breathed that stuff, and they went to bed thinking about it, and they woke up thinking about it. And maybe they're a little out of balance from my perspective, but they were really, really called to do these things: eat, live, sleep, and breathe it. So I think my approach to all that stuff has been kind of keep it at arm's length and take it with a grain of salt, and just try to enjoy it, try to have fun with it, because actually being the world's strongest man and winning the title is not that much different than being the guy who takes fourth place, believe it or not. It's really not all that life changing. Your bank account doesn't suddenly get a bunch of extra zeros. You just get a little bit more attention, but it's very similar to being the guy that won fourth place. And by the way, I took fourth place 4 times, and fifth place once, and seventh place once. So I know what I'm talking about. Maybe even more so than being the actual guy who wins. But but how does all this translate into you know folks chasing their bliss and finding their own purpose? um I think all of this stuff comes back to, that I think the title of the podcast is your why. The what's my why, and kind of the theme of what you're exploring here. um and I think by my personal nature, I'm very inquisitive, I'm very curious, I'm very creative, um I'm very analytical and or philosophical. We talked about the psychology and the that aspect of extreme physical training. It's very much a mental discipline as much as a physical discipline. So sometimes our blessings in life are also our burdens, or sometimes our burdens in life are also our blessings. It's just a matter of getting our perspective right, and
Yeah.
having a healthy perspective with whatever our challenges are.
Yeah.
So I'm a father, and I try to talk about these things with my son who's 20, about, finding his passion, finding what excites him, and finding what speaks to him. And this is a very, very difficult thing to do. And, even if you look at someone like Elon Musk, um, who, he's got these amazing skill sets and this amazing intellect and ability to achieve all these incredible things, revolutionizing electronic payment systems with PayPal, the solar energy systems with Tesla, electric vehicle systems with Tesla, space exploration, and transportation with a Boring Company. I mean, just on and on and on. But this is someone who is so driven. So I think you're either born with a lot of drive and a lot of curiosity and a lot of inquisitiveness, a need to ask why, and a need to be introspective and self-examine your own motivations. So to help someone sort of shine a light on those faculties that they have within them. You know, I don't think there are a lot of aha moments. I think it's kind of a drip, drip, drip. You know, there's little blinks of light that help shine light on it. Occasionally you get those big bright lights, you know, where you do have those aha moments. You know, I'm not sure how you can help someone discover all that stuff. I think a lot of it is just, it's either there or it's not. I think you can nurture it, but I think it really, really comes back to nature in a lot of ways, and destiny. You know, I believe, you know, in free will, and we create our own life, and we create our own destiny to some extent. But you know, there's a lot of good fate and good fortune that meets you. You know, the happy road of destiny, you know, rises up to meet you when you set out on it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are heavy things that I wrestle with every single day. And you know, I think a lot of it also comes back to balance, because you know, I don't see myself necessarily as the world's strongest man. I see myself wearing a lot of different hats, and you know, my biggest and most important hat, I think, has been as a father, you know, and as a person and a friend and a brother and a son, you know, not some guy who can lift up the biggest weight or carry the car the fastest. But that's really cool stuff too.
Yes.
There is there's nothing better. There's no better leadership quality than humility, and and I love everything that you're talking about, because it's layered with deep perspective, and great humility. So thank you for that. I think you know, it's interesting because, you know, I was expecting, you know, for this interview, you know, the cover of your website page, you know, where you're just like jacked, like, you know, I think pulling a truck.
I think that's where I'm got my arms up and I'm screaming.
Right.
Yeah, I just won World's Strongest Man, and it was basically just a scream of relief.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
hey, I've been chasing this thing for 8 years, and gee, my little quest here hasn't been in vain. Yeah.
I love it.
Yes. Yes. Phil, you said something here a little bit ago that a lot of people miss in their journey and in doing what they're doing and in doing what they're trying to get to. And you said enjoying and having fun with it.
Yeah.
And that is very, very, very important, because when you don't do that, you lose the part of your life where that it could really bring you that fulfillment of being in the moment.
Yeah.
And really that energy is carried through. And because you're so laid back and you're just such an awesome guy, you know, your energy, that's what you did. And yet, yes, you saw all these guys struggling with, I have to eat, breathe, sleep, all this stuff. And maybe they never became the world's strongest man. But here you are enjoying the journey. And we as entrepreneurs, we forget to do that. And it's so important, because if you're not enjoying it, then what is the purpose, the point in doing it, right?
Yeah, I really liked what you said about being present in the moment, and you know, the ability to stop and smell the roses, you know, or the you know, the sense of balance and the sense of perspective, you know, to not take yourself so seriously all the time, and to, hey, buy yourself a nice meal, you know, get yourself a nice, you know, piece of clothing or whatever it is, you know, or, you know, indulge just a little, treat yourself, you know, lighten up, and, you know, be present, because today might be your last day. So yeah, all that stuff's really heavy, and you know, there are a lot of things I can be hard on myself about, but honestly, most of the time, you know, although I'm not happy with all of my circumstances all the time, I'm really very comfortable and very grateful to have experienced everything that I have experienced, and with the simple blessings that I have each day.
Yeah.
And I think that it takes a long time to get to that place in life. I don't think it's something you have in your teenage years or when you're in your 20s, or while you're chasing whatever it is you chase, when you're trying to chase your bliss or embrace your destiny or reach your goals, whether they're big or small. It's very, very important to have those things. It's not hard work if it's your passion and if it's your dream. Your hard work is transcended into something greater, and you experience things like flow and all this kind of stuff. But it's I think it all comes back to balance. And I've known billionaires who didn't have balance. I've known millionaires who didn't have balance. And some of those people are dead. I've known some people who are very balanced and very content, don't have great financial portfolios or whatever, don't have great accolades, under their belt, but they have real gratitude and real satisfaction.
Yeah.
And you don't. I think it takes time. I think it takes time to develop that kind of perspective, and that time. There's no substitute for time to have that wider perspective and that daily sense of well-being and balance. And it's tough. It's tough to get to a place and have these kind of conversations, I think, in our culture, and outside of a religious context as well. We're very much about keeping score with our bank accounts and our accolades and our titles and our credentials, and I think more so, in the information age, in the digital world, in the world of social media, and it's changing every single day, or certainly every year or month.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything you have to say. Phil, you ready for a quick speed round?
Yeah.
All right. Based on what you just said, what advice would you give? What advice, based on what you just said, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
I don't know. I don't think I have any heavy advice for my 21-year-old self other than enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
It's not all about the destination. It's about the journey.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Speed round number 2.
Yep.
Maggie?
I just want to say, Phil, that I really appreciate you, and I will never forget when you would come over to my salsa manufacturing plant. I'm 5'2", and you're 6'6", and he would come and knock on the door, and there's this big man with his hands this big, come shake my hand. He would hug me, pick me up, and my whole back would crack. And I would tell him, thank you, I don't need a chiropractor visit anymore. But you certainly made an impact for me and my team. And I really love you and appreciate you. And thank you for being at my book launch and saying a few words. And you're just an amazing guy, and I admire you.
Well, where's the question? I'm just kidding. No, thank you.
I have a quick question for you. Best piece of wisdom.
I've got to hit Maggie back here. After she ladled on all that sauce there, man, I got slings of it back at her.
So I'll ask you a question.
If you don't know Maggie's story, it's phenomenal. It's like no other. And I love about where we live in Charleston, West Virginia, and where you used to live, where you lived for decades, that it's like Mayberry. You can show up at somebody's place and you can bump into people around town and just happen to see them. And, I consider Maggie like my little sister, and on another level like this, because she is a very deep and very spiritual person. And some of those things I mentioned about being born with drive and feeling this calling, feeling this need, feeling this passion. I think that, you asked about my 21-year-old self, and I talked a little bit about my 20-year-old son. I think we have a certain restlessness until we, launch our salsa company or win World's Strongest Man or sell our salsa company, until we find our destiny and find our path. It's an uncomfortable place. If you don't know how to harness and direct your drive. And that's something that my 20-year-old son is wrestling with right now. He's doing phenomenal, but he's got all this potential and all this energy. And I'm trying to give him a little bit of respect and say, it's because you're so driven, just be patient. And when you see the window that speaks to you, you'll climb through it, or you see the door and you'll walk through it, and you'll be on your way. Just enjoy today in the meantime. It's a hard thing to do, whether you're 49 or 21 or 20. All right.
Yeah.
Speed round.
We can easily forget. Speed round. Jen, are you going to ask another question?
We'll end with this question. How about this? Unless, Maggie, you have a question. Best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I don't know that there's just one. I'd probably go back to my father, and he said that your health is the most valuable thing, and I try to pass that along to my son as well, and my son lives about 5,000 miles away from me in Kauai, and it's kind of a heavy thing, because he and I spent a lot of time together when he was growing up. Almost every day I spent a lot of time with him, and I just always try to end each conversation by saying, hey, stay safe, be healthy, and I've seen a lot of people over the years, who have all these blessings, but maybe they don't have their health, and your health is absolutely your greatest blessing. And I worked on an ambulance sometimes for the city of Charleston Fire Department for about 10 years. And I would go into places and see people that had just been dealt a really tough hand of cards to play in life, with their health situations through no fault of their own, just genetic, inherited medical conditions. And seeing that really makes you appreciate the basic gifts of health, and trying to preserve that. And I was always a lifetime drug-free athlete in strongman, and unfortunately that's not the case for every guy I competed with. And I say that because it would have been nice if the playing field had been level, but even more so because I lost some friends along the way. They didn't make it because they didn't all make the same choices or maybe as good of choices as they could have. So best piece of advice, embrace your health, treasure your health, take care of yourself.
Amen to that. And I'm going to let Maggie close, but I just want to thank you, Phil, for really grounded guidance from your path and wisdom and the insights. And congratulations on your journey. And thank you for your story, and thank you for your encouragement, inspiration, and most importantly, your humility. And Maggie, I'll let you close it up.
Well, thank you so much, Phil. It's been an honor. Yes. I'll give you one last bonus piece of advice thing here that I just thought of. It's kind of short and sweet, but always leave room for improvement. Yeah. Always leave a little room for improvement. It's really easy when you're driven to beat yourself up. But hey, if you just look at it as I'm being adequate, and it's just a little room to improve the next time.
I agree. Amen to that.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you, Phil, so much. Guys, this is Phil Pfister from the World's Strongest Man 2006 MidRx. And you're awesome, Phil. Thank you for being with us. And I really would love to stay in touch with you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Thank you very much, John. It's been an honor.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Maggie. Always fun. Thanks, everybody.